Once you get all of your design lines done on your blouse, you can begin to put in the necklace, which is a combination of two of the turquoise beads and a small piece of the silver chip. And I just threaded up a bunch of them, and I started from the candle and worked my way up. I found it easier to shape it that way than going in the other direction. And I'm trying to mirror what's on the other side of what I've already started. So I just kept adding the beads and the little piece of check, metal check, until the whole thing was filled up. That's what I'm doing now, is loading up my needle off screen. So here we are, it's all filled, and now I'm just going to lay it in place to see how it's going to fit. If I have too many beads, if it's not going to be the same shape. So it should come right up to the bottom of that purple area, but knowing that we're going to cover the edge of that purple with gold. So I don't want to put it too close to the purple. I want to have it just a little bit, about one stitch down, so that I can have space to put the gold on. And I just take the same thread that the beads are threaded on, pass it through the canvas, and I'm coming up and I'm going to couch this between two beads. And it's a little fussy, and you have to really control this thread because you want the thread to fall between the two beads and not anyplace else, and then it will disappear. The trick is this here is not to pull that stitch too tightly, because it will make an indentation there. You just want it to hold the beads in place. And I'm only going to do about three of those stitches on here so that it has more of a soft look and not the look that it's been nailed down to the surface. And you can see that this has made the bottom of that lose its roundness. So I'm going to, right about here, put another one just to pull it out. Because if I don't, it's going to end up being a straight line and it doesn't look right. So there's three little couching stitches holds the necklace in place. And I'm going to keep my laying tool at hand just in case I have to massage that over or control the thread, because there's a lot of stuff for it to catch on in that area. And it goes right into between the two beads. And there we have the necklace finished up, basically even on each side. And she's looking pretty good. It's got a nice continuous curve, and I might go in and do a little stitch over there because that was out of place. Now we're going to move on to the gold metal work and sequins on the dress. When I got home, I found I had some other sequins that I liked, and so I'm going to show you some other options that you can also do if you have access to some. So I'm doing this, the base one here. It's one of the little small deep burgundy sequins that I left with you guys. And then I'm taking just a tiny piece of a chip of the gold work piece. It's just a small tiny little piece. Slide it on my needle, and then we're going to, there you can see it, it's just a tiny little piece of chip, and you go right back down through the hole of the sequin, and that little chip acts like a little bead to hold that sequin in place. So that's really very easy to do. It gives it a little height, and it gives it a little sparkle, a little something different than a bead. Now I'm going to come up just above that with my needle. There we go. And I've already pre-measured and cut a piece of gold pearl. There it is. There's my piece of check. Carefully laying it on my needle so that the point of the needle is going through the center of the spiral of the metal and not through one of the edges. Now I'm going to add three sequins. Actually, I found some little teeny gold ones. So I have a little gold one, I have a medium-sized red cup, and then I have a large gold cup. And I decided, oh, these look pretty good together. So that's what I'm going to put on. And I just make sure it's all down as tight as it will go. It kind of flips over. Come on, there we go. And I get it into place, and I push it towards the blue design so it has a little bit of height to the gold metal thread, so that it stands off of the canvas. And then just pull the stitch through. making sure it doesn't catch, and there we are. There it is. So that it's hard to see in the picture, but there's a small gold sequin, and then the red one, and then the other gold one peeking out from underneath. Now in this grouping, I want to put just a long piece of the gold check. So I'm going to measure it. I don't cut it here. I just grab it in my scissors, and then I cut it over on the velvet cutting board. That way, there I get to see. It helps to hold it in place. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a little teeny gold sequin and then the burgundy one, and just angle it in the right place, and again push it towards the base so that it has a little bit of loft, and stitch it down. And you just continue to do that to each of the areas, and you have these precious little designs with the sequins and the gold metal threads. You can do any combination of sequins on there. If you have loose sequins, because it doesn't take that many, they don't have to be red, they don't have to be anything. You do indeed have artistic license, so you can decide what sequins you would like to see there. This is going to demonstrate how I did the turkey work stitch, but rather than using the full amount of thread, I'm going to use just a single strand of thread so that you can see the structure. You would be stitching this with 3 strands doubled or even more. You know, the more threads you have, the thicker velvety look you get. So you start on the surface with the tail, and you go down in one hole, come up on one hole to the left, and then go over one hole to the right on the other side of the tail. Before you pull that loop down, you come back up in the center. Then you pull that loop down, and it helps to lock the stitch in place. Now this time, when you're leaving a long tail on the surface, I wrapped it around a pencil so that it held it in place, and it keeps them all at the same length. So I come up then one to the left, and I make a loop and leave that loop on the surface, go down on the other side of the tail, come back up in the same hole as the tail, and then pull that stitch down, and that helps to lock it. Wrap that around the pencil, and then continue that process. I find holding the long loops with a pencil or something like that is very helpful because it keeps them under control, and they don't tend to bounce up or twist up and get in the way of the rest of your stitching, so that you can easily control them and also then keep the upper loop out of the way, because otherwise you could end up with, and I did when I was first doing this with the full set of threads, ending up with some massive knots and just have to rip it out and start again. So this seemed to help it considerably. So you just continue this along your full length of the design line, and then once you're all done, you go back and obviously trim those long loops down to whatever height you need and fluff them out. I find I keep old toothbrushes around for a variety of things, and they seem to work well for this because they open up the threads, the ply of the threads, and it makes a really nice velvet. You do want to do this nearby a trash can because it will make a mess. You will get little fibers all over your piece. So if there's some way that you can, when you go to cut them, keep a piece of paper nearby right next to where you're cutting and try to get all the cuttings onto the paper, the more you can control and contain that way, the fewer you'll have to pick off your piece.